one client, two clients. Okay. Now if I draw an X here, X shows up. If I draw an O here, O shows up. Okay, so that's right. Welcome back to Arcade. I am Super Tommy, and this is part 4 of our Tic-Tac-Toe multiplayer game with Phaser 3.50 and Colyseus series. Now, in the last part, we added drawing X's, so now I have all these X's here. But we handled drawing an X when you click on a square, and then actually if I connect another client here, see if they're all in the same room. So we have our Colyseus server running here at 2567, I think. And we have our Colyseus monitor. Right, got two people in here. If I do an X here, the second player also sees it. So that's what we left off on in part 3. Now in this part, let's handle different player turns. So when the first player puts down an X, the second player, it's their turn to put down an O. So let's make myself smaller here. So what we're going to want to do is after the command that we did, the player selection command here, after this happens, we want to change the turn to be the next player's turn. Now in our room here, right, our room state, with an active player value, which is going to be either 0 or 1, since we have a 2-player tic-tac-toe game here. So, and I had briefly mentioned that you can chain these commands together. So let me show you that. We're going to make another command here. That's simply going to, if the active player is 0, make it 1. If the active player is 1, make it 0. And then on the front end, the client side, the phaser game part, we're going to disallow you to go if you are index 0, if the current turn is 1, and in the other case, if you're index 1, player index 1, and it's the 0 index player's turn, you can't go. So first, let's just make a new command here. Let's call it next player turn command, maybe next turn command, command.ts. So we want to do is import command from @Colyseus command. So command, and then export default class next turn command. Extends command. And now it's the tic-tac-toe state. Then let's just set a payload here. We're gonna create that. Let's collapse this. So we're going to make that payload here. So we're going to do type payload. And actually, do we need a payload? Actually, don't need a payload, I think. Let's just fix this. Actually, don't need a payload. I think it doesn't matter. And then we need the execute. Every command has to have an execute. So this is what gets called when your command is fired. So what we're going to do here, we have access to the room, and the room has a state, and we have active player. Let's just put this in here. So what we're going to do, we're assuming 2 players. So now if active player equals 0, we're going to do this.room.state.activeplayer1. Else this.room.state.activePlayer is going to go back to 0. So if the active player is 0, we make the next player's turn 1. If the active player is 1, we set the next player to be 0. And that's it. And now we can do this after this is executed, right? We can do it like this. In the execute function, we can return another command. So like next turn command. And do .set payload, which is nothing. So we can just do this. So we do our player selection command, then we can do the next turn command. And then to show you that that's going to work, let's go to our server service here in the front end. And now similar to this, on change, where we listen to the board field, you can also listen to the active player field. Let's just do a log here. Console.log value. So after I go here, let's bring up the console. After I make a turn here and the X is drawn, what I'm expecting to happen is that we're going to get another value log. So right now it's player zero's turn, X. Now it's player one's turn, as you can see right here. So that's how we fired off this command, by chaining it into another command, right? We're doing this like this. Now, let me just show you, another way you can do this. So in our tic-tac-toe room, we dispatched this. We can also here dispatch another one, like right after that. So you can also, of course, do this. Dot dispatch new next turn command. No payload. Now this should do the exact same thing. Just make the server ended itself. That happens sometimes. Let's just restart the server. Now if I refresh here, click 1, I should also get a 1. So either one is basically the same. The only time where you may want to chain it in the other one is if you have a bunch of async commands. So you could have async commands that take longer than that tick to complete. So if you have to wait for something to happen, do a now recall, whatever it might be, that would be a better option. So let's actually personally prefer to just do this, but each to their own. So let's just do this, and now the turn is going to be changed. Now we can handle it on the front end. So right here, we can do a event emit here, this.events.emit, player turn changed, say. Throw out that value. And let's just say on player turn changed. Give a callback. There's going to be a player index. That's the value, just number. Context, just any. And this.events.on. Just copy this. These would be much better as enums. I will leave that to you. Callback context. Okay. I'll keep pressed. Keep typing CH. CB. Now in the game here, let's go this.server.on player turn changed. Just do handle player turn changed. This. Then we're going to get player index. That's what we're expecting. Okay, now to make sure that's working, just do a console.log player index here. Okay, do this. X1 from game 80, which is right here. Okay, so that's working good. Now we need to know which your player index is. So if we go to server here, we don't really have that information, right? We can connect to the room like we do this join and do room, but there's really nothing that tells us what our index is. So what we can do is send that down to us so that we know who we are. So in the tic-tac-toe room, we were doing this on join a few videos ago, but we didn't complete it. So client, get the client. So we can figure out what our index is when we connect to the server. So very similar to, well, this.clients. So the find index in our player selection command, right? We can do this.clients.find index c.id. Actually, we see that Let's call this c.session ID equals client dot session ID. Find index const idx. This is our player index of the person that connected. So what we will want to do is then this dot send back to ourselves. I guess we can just do this. Client dot send a type here and then some message, which is going to be, let's just call it player index idx. Now we're going to give it a message type there, and let's see, let's just go this, just say player index. Here, message dot player index. So we're going to broadcast that to the person that connected to tell them what their player index is. And we're going to come here to the server. Let's just save our, let's say, player index, and it's going to start at a -1. So if we don't know what it is, we're going to be -1, and then we'll just do a get here so that we can get it easily. It's going to be return this dot player index. So now join, and then this dot room dot on message. We want message dot player index, and the message is going to be player index number. Oh, it's like callback. So now let's just log this. Invalid message type. Well, let's see. Let's see what that is about on Room.js server.ts38. Let's restart our server. Oh, wait. That's correct. Let's just try that again. It's probably this dot send on message. Player index. Type string number callback. We'll just comment this out to make sure that is the source of the problem. Yes. Okay. Player index. This time, so we're on the server. This time room that on message. This dot room dot. Well, let's say, so now out of curiosity here, what am I doing? Type and then message console.log type console. So this star is just catch all for all messages. Message.player index. Message.player index. What's this? Okay. Type callback. That should be okay. But it's not. I'll just go with this for now. Maybe doing something silly that I can't think of right this second. So let's do this. Type case message dot player index. And what we're going to do is this dot player index gets message dot player index. Okay. Good. So now when we go to game, in our make selection here, we can actually, so if not room, also if this dot player index is not equal to this dot room dot state dot active player, also return, right? And we can just do like a, let's say console dot one, not this player's, this player's. So if I, oops, if I press square here, no, it is not this player's, because let's put the second connected player, right? Oops. Not this player's turn. Now let's see, it has to be someone's turn. So let's actually see what we have working with here. Let's go to server.ts. Let's listen for that. Put a breakpoint in there. Let's put a breakpoint in here. Okay. Player index -1, because I guess that was not called. Let's see. So this should be called. So type is 1. Oh, message.player index. Well, that would explain why is that undefined. Let's see what it does. Messages, let's just make sure. Messages, message. Haha. Let's rebuild because it must have not picked up the change to that file. That does happen sometimes with any sort of dev server you might be using. No software anyone makes is perfect. All right, let's try that again. Let's see. Type 1, player index 1. Okay. That's what was expected the first time. So let's do this like we wanted to. On message dot player index, and then we get a message, and we know in this message we're getting this down. That's going to be a number. Boom. And we're doing this. We don't need this. Now you could have this catch-all, this asterisk catch-all. That's fine. I do like to be more specific with the on messages. It's easier to read, and you can just type your message right in the callback there. And so sometimes you have some problem that you don't know what the hell's going on. Restarting the dev server is not a terrible idea. Try to unplug it and plug it back in and see if that helps. Let's get rid of this breakpoint. Now things should be doing what we expect. Small. Get to the console. Now, click. Let's see. Player index 1, active player is 0. So it's not going to be this client's turn, right? It should say it's not, but then it should be this guy's turn. It's also not this player's turn. So let's see what else we did wrong. Let's see, server. Selection. Player index is -1. Oh wait, this guy did not refresh. Just make sure everyone is refreshed here. Okay. So player index is 1. Players, oh. Right, everyone is player index 1, which is incorrect. So let's go over here and just make sure we're doing our player index correctly. One, so that's wrong. Okay, let's go to our tic-tac-toe here. So let's actually see. So.log this.clients.length. So now look at that in my terminal here. You can also see it if you're running your terminal. Just make sure that logic is right. Let's do a refresh here. 1. So there's one person. Index should be 0. 2. Let's log this console.log. Refresh. Okay. 0, 2, 1. So that is doing the right thing. Okay, let's go to server.ts, then just log out what we're getting here. Console.log message.player index. 0, 1. So it should be the 0th player's turn. There we go. So that's correct. Now if I try to go again, I can't. Okay. So it's probably a state of there's some sort of desync with the clients connected to each other. Okay. That's correct. Now it should be this person's turn. And we're only drawing X's right now, but we can draw a O for this. Okay, so now we'll leave these logs and give us more information. So in the game here, so now we added this check here so to disallow you from going if it's not your turn. And then handle board, this is handle player turn change. You may not actually need this. Now this is add X because the board value here is 1 or cell.x. So let's say new value. And then here we can do a switch new value. So case cell.x, we're going to draw this x. Oops. This is draw this x. And then break. And here, case cell.o. So this is the other stamp in tic-tac-toe. So change this to new value. Actually move that out of this switch. That's shared. Now let's draw an O. So add dot. We're gonna do circle. And let's see. So Y, let's see, radius. So this thing is 128. Let's just say the radius is 60. Fill color. So if it's red, let's make it blue. No red, R, G, no blue, blue. Okay, let's see. So that's state, see what file that's in here. All right. Everyone's refreshing. Good. 0. So this guy's turn. This guy should have Tron. There's the O. They may be. Okay, there we go. So this is semi-working, as you can see. So let's just restart from scratch here. Actually, we did. So in Colyseus, so let's just disconnect this when we're testing to make this a little simpler. Oops. Just dispose this room. We can start from scratch here. So in Colyseus, by default, if everyone leaves the room, then it'll destroy it. And then the first person that goes into it creates it. Now, we are not drawing the initial state when you come in. So now we should be in the same room. Just make sure. 1 client, 2 clients. Okay. Now, if I draw an X here, X shows up. If I draw an O here, O shows up. Okay, so that's right. So part of the debugging of some of those multiplayer things is you got to make sure you're in the same room when you're doing it. And using this monitor is helpful for that. There's things you can do to make sure that is the case that we haven't done here, which is joining by ID, so that if you want to join a specific room, you can do that. But also more specifically to this problem, actually, is that in our create board here, we're not handling the case where the board already has something in it. So real quick, we can do that just by doing this. So just take this, we can just copy this. We can modify this later. But so we do a rectangle here. Well, let's say, yeah, we'll do the rectangle, and then let's do this. So what is going to be cell state, so that if we leave and we come back, we still draw the correct stuff. That's just going to be cell.x for the x, and cell.x or cell.xy for the x, cell.xy for the O. We don't need to rotate our circle. We can clean this up later. What we're doing here is drawing the X and the O that's already on the board when we get the initial board state. Because if we connect later or we refresh and reconnect, we should still see the same state. So let's go here, just refresh for safety here. So when I do an X, then this guy will see an X. Now, if I refresh this guy, I should still see the X when he comes back because he's going to the same room. And he is. So that's more correct. So part of the issue before is that we thought we were looking at the same thing, but it wasn't the same state, because in Colyseus, if not everyone leaves the room doesn't get destroyed. It just waits for the next person to come in. So that's part of some of the bugs or confusion you may run into while developing your game locally. So just keep an eye on that and use the monitor to help you. Okay, so now it's Blue's turn. Let's just confirm. Blue. Now Blue can't go again. This is too big. Let's make this 50. And then we can do this cleanup later. But we've now got X and O turns between one player and a second player. Yeah, let's see. And I do think after a refresh, okay, yeah, different people can connect at different times. So if this browser connects first, then here's player 1. If this browser connects first, then they're player 1. So that could change too. So just keep an eye on that. Logging this down will be helpful. What we have here in this part 4, we added the ability to basically 2 players play, and we disallow playing or putting in a move if it's not your turn. We only disallowed it on the client side. We should also disallow it on the server side. Now that I'm mentioning it, this player selection command here, we can do it right here. We get our index. So like if client index not equal to this this.room.state.activePlayer. Return, don't do anything. Definitely don't go to the next turn. Now, if you're blocking it on the client, this may never happen, but you never know. Someone may want to cheat. So you want to keep all your checks on the server side as well, because you can't cheat the server. They can't get to your server. Your server is somewhere else. This versus your JavaScript code, which is on the client. They can do whatever they want. Okay, so we've got two players playing X and O over here. Our real time had disconnected because it reloaded. So let's reload this again. And we guard against multiple turns like we just showed you, and we do it on the server side as well, just like this, very simply. And so that's the blue. So that's two players playing. Now, obviously, right now we don't have any check for when you've won. So for example, right here, X should have won, but that we don't do any logic like that. You can just keep going. Hope and keep going. So in the next part 5, we're going to handle resolving the tic-tac-toe board when there is a winner. So in this case, diagonal this way, each up and down the rows and up and down the columns. So if you enjoyed this video, do hit like and hit subscribe for more videos on making games with Phase of 350 and Colyseus.